So NFTs, the non-fungible tokens.
Yeah, we are gonna start some kind of discussion amongst ourselves about the recurring or the newest trend in marketing schemes, this NFT that's based on blockchain. And well, blockchain on itself is something I wager many of the people don't even understand what blockchain even is. I had hard time wrapping my head around blockchain,
Yeah.
but then I've read some articles and listened to some video that explained it, and now I understand the core mechanic or how it's supposed to work. And NFTs are just based on this blockchain technology.
Even I have hard time wrapping my head around this thing. So
maybe this is a topic that's gonna have, we're gonna probably make many videos, maybe thinking about different aspects. So maybe we should start about the blockchain part, because it sounds pretty nice.
Yeah.
That there's some, you have this neutral kind of a computer or server or neutral system that makes sure the thing you are exchanging is valid and who owns that thing. And most known, I'd say, blockchain-based technology is the Bitcoin that traders really love because it's going up and down. The world really doesn't really know what its value is supposed to be. It's very nice speculative currency. Yeah. So Bitcoin is based on this blockchain, this neutral system that it shares the calculation power to every computer that takes part in this, and there's just so many computers always keeping track of who is owning any of these bitcoins and how many of them have been mined. And the basic idea is that when there's hundreds of thousands, probably millions even, computers always checking the current status of these bitcoins, is that it's impossible to break or fake anything in there.
Basically they're checking the transactions and everything going on there.
So the nice idea here is that there's no human who can just go tweak the numbers there, because there's always check-in going on. Computers are doing the check-in all the time.
Yeah, so even if you hacked in there and changed some numbers, then all the other computers who are also checking to see that everything is correct there, they can see that, okay, one or two computers have been changed, so we're just gonna revert that and basically not acknowledge those changes.
Yeah. And if you are very wary of the current banking systems around the world, it sounds pretty nice. There's not banks keeping your money and making sure it has value. There's this technology that makes sure it's reliable.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the world hasn't really acknowledged this currency, and also that there are so many cryptocurrencies popping around. There's Ethereums, and someone listed all of them, and it was 20, 30 different coins, Dogecoin, everything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of collapsing on itself, I'd say. No one will know which one of the coins will ever, if ever, gonna be a valid currency in the world.
Yeah. So the blockchain technology itself is kind of interesting. But the problem is that the only methods of using that technology thus far have been basically NFTs and, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Dogecoin.
Yeah, and so the NFT is basically this Bitcoin is based on the blockchain technology. And NFT is kind of for your digital goods. Like if you make a painting, it's yours. You have the copyright for or the right for that painting what you made. But in digital world, it's been a problem since day one. Who owns the picture that's circling around the internet as a meme pic or anything? There might be tens of copies in different social media networks, and you're not really sure who's the original owner. So the NFT is kind of trying to prevent that or give the credit to the original creator, kind of. But it sounds really nice, but there are problems in it because at the moment the NFTs are actually used against the original idea. People are stealing artwork and making NFTs out of them.
Yeah, and then selling them off in their own name.
Yeah, in NFT you are selling you have the right to own that JPG image of a white pixel. You have this in your heart, and in the database you have knowledge of the fact that you own this something that the seller has declared what that token will allow you.
Yeah. So you could say in a sense it's kind of like or I guess what would be a suitable let's say you have an idea and you're ready to sell this idea to somebody else, and let's say you write some piece of paper that says that, you know, this person has paid me $1,000, and in exchange I have given them this idea, and that idea is now theirs. And now they have that paper, and that paper is basically what NFT is.
Yeah.
But the thing is, of course, in order for that to be valid, it needs to be acknowledged by certain institutes. Because if nobody respects that paper, if you give that paper to somebody and they look at it and they just, you know, rip it in shreds, and they're like, yeah, no, I don't care about that. That idea is mine now, and it belongs to everybody. Then, of course, that paper has no value. And that's sort of the problem with NFTs right now, because in the internet, both in the old days and in the current day, you can just download any image that you see, and then you have a copy of that image. And it doesn't really matter that somebody has like this ticket or paper, or in this case an NFT, that, you know, is a proof that they own this thing, unless like laws or the police or somebody comes, you know, the internet police comes and actually enforces the fact that, you know, nobody else is allowed to have that JPEG on their computer aside from the person who has this ticket. Then unless we go there, then, you know, that ticket is practically worthless, even though you paid $1,000 for it. In some cases even more.
Yeah, and it's even worse that it's data in someone's server. It's not even a physical thing that you could. Well, NFTs are made to. You can resell them. The NFT you acquired is something you can sell to someone else at any price you want. But there's still that problem that it's not even the physical thing you own. It's just some data somewhere.
Yeah.
And in your heart of the hearts, I really like to use this idea. It's in your soul. You feel that you own it, because that's what NFT in essence is.
Yeah.
It's your unshakable determination to the fact that you own that JPEG, and the server proves it. NFTs, they are solving a problem that's not, well, it exists, but it's not the solution to the problem. At the moment, even the regular people, I don't know if we are regular people. Somehow we've encountered these NFTs from, I'd say, from March 2021 or somewhere, maybe. No, because of the trading. I got interested in trading in 2021.
In the stock market.
Yes, in the stock market, and Bitcoin is very big thing in there, and that way I became familiar with blockchain, and then NFTs came about. So it was because of this. Someone sold some Twitter tweet. There was this news about these big sales of NFTs that started popping up, and at least I picked up on them, and then it started to become more and more news, or more and more news popped up, and at this moment I think most of the people have heard that acronym at some point, because it's become a buzzword. It's a straight up buzzword right now. All the game companies, or the AAA game companies, almost all of them have put NFT somewhere in their vocabulary. They are making NFTs, or are they planning on making NFTs, or they are not, haven't done any plans on NFTs. They really like to put that NFT there because it's a buzzword right now.
Yeah, everybody needs to have their own opinion about the NFTs.
And that's why we are this knowledgeable of NFTs, because gaming companies have really embraced it right now. There are some, Konami comes to mind, a Japanese pachinko machine developer.
These days, yes.
Yeah, used to be a games developer. They really wanted to celebrate Castlevania's, was it 35th or 30th anniversary?
Something like that.
And instead of pushing out some, game collection, very easy to do, just put some 4 first Castlevania games together and put them out there.
I think they did one with limited run games. Or at least there's some Castlevania collection coming from limited run games. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good. I didn't know that, but most of the celebration involved some JPEGs, and selling those JPEGs as NFTs to people.
So that's the official, I've only heard about the limited run special, or what was it, anniversary edition, because I follow limited run games. But you don't, so apparently that is the, official point from Konami.
And many others. Ubisoft launched this Ubisoft Quartz. I don't really know what it is. Is it a shop? Is it a digital goods platform? I don't actually know what it is in essence.
Yeah,
but
I'll have to do some research.
It somehow revolved around NFTs, of course, and selling the NFTs. And I actually saw some images how they will manifest. They are testing them on the
Division.
Division.
Yeah, Tom Clancy's Division.
Probably. It's either Splinter Cell or Division, or some other game, because they look so similar.
Yeah, they all look the freaking same.
But they are testing it on on one of these games, and the way it manifests itself, you buy the NFT. And you get some number on your helmet. And that's practice they already used for many years now. You've already had these cosmetics with different coloring, with different patterns, with different texts. They already be selling those, but now they are just selling it as the same thing, the cosmetics, as NFTs. And not even as cosmetic, but it can be the grey helmet and the other grey helmet, but the only difference is the ID or the code.
Yeah,
numbers.
The number. Okay,
so it's very easy for them. They just need to put some generator to put out a unique ID number on your helmet. It's just there in the JPEG.
Yeah.
But if I was a business, I'd do the same. I'd really make it low effort, but it really showcases that NFT, it's a buzzword. They are just, because of this big news of NFTs selling, there are some crazy people who are just paying much money for them.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of dollars, euros for those.
Yeah, there's people who are like NFT collectors and they really want in on the thing and they just want to buy something and so on. It's kind of like what were those like spinner things we had a couple of years ago?
Spinners.
Yeah, the fidget spinners. So it's kind of like that, those things came to the shop and everybody wanted to buy one and now they're just gone for the most part.
Oh yeah, I don't remember seeing them
for many years. They just came and went.
Yeah. So this example shows how it's just the same thing, but they just see the money in it. People will buy them, and the Ubisoft gets their share of the big money that is exchanged in this.
So first they were like charging us $8 for, coloring our weapon blue, and now they're charging us $8 in the form of whatever money system they use, so that it makes us confused and not understand that it's freaking $8. And it's not even blue, it's gray. And it just has a freaking number on it. So, oh god.
Yeah. Well, now that I told you this example, I think the Ubisoft's Quartz is kind of this bazaar or the shop, like in Diablo 3 they had this weapon shop.
Yeah, the auction house.
Auction house kind of thing, that they might sell that ID on a helmet for $5. Hey, that's cheap. But the idea is that players will sell them amongst themselves, and Ubisoft will get the money
right. Yeah.
And this is just logical conclusion I came up with. I don't know the actual, but this sounds very logical because I really want to. I was really struggling to see where's the money at, but it's the auction house. It's a place where trading happens. Trading of those NFTs happen, and Ubisoft just takes their slice of each transaction, and they are hoping people are selling those in tens of thousands of dollars each, so they get the nice slice of 100 there or something.
So basically, if you can't remember, for those who can't remember, Diablo 3 when it came out, it didn't just come out with an auction house, it was a real live auction house. So the idea was that you play the game and you get loot, as you do in all Diablo games. But of course, unlike in Diablo 2, where most of the loot I guess works for your character, in Diablo 3 all the loot was randomized. So you probably got a lot of loot, but you couldn't use any of it because it wasn't for your character's class. It wasn't for your specific character class. And that's why you put it on sale, and you could use real money on that. And if somebody bought the item that you found, could have been like a really good legendary item, but you can't use it yourself, so you have to sell it. And so Blizzard, the creators of Diablo 3, they took a little cut from there. So that's how they were trying to make the money. And they found out at some point that that was a really bad idea. Because the game was mostly about, running around and finding loot that you couldn't use. So there was like no excitement in the game at all. And how you would get items in the game was that you would always go to the real life auction house. And you would buy your great mighty legendary from there instead of actually playing the game. And because you bought this really great legendary item, now your character was basically overpowered for most of the game. And, the gameplay loop was just really sad at that point. You just started the game and you would pick a bunch of legendary items from the auction house and then go bash monsters and find loot that you couldn't use. So there was no fun in the loot.
Yeah,
So
Diablo 3 is probably almost 10 years old now.
yeah,
So you can see how old this idea is already. NFT is just another word for the same thing that they've been selling us over and over again.
Yeah.
A cosmetic, or it might be something that affects your gameplay or makes you more powerful, but all in all, it's just new name for the companies trying to sell you something
yeah,
and putting in this kind of storefront in there where people can exchange those and the company can just cut their profits from there.
yeah. And I think it's probably going to be almost exclusively like cosmetic, because the problem with NFTs, well, as we mentioned, there's a lot of problems, but the problem from like the person's side who's trying to sell NFTs is that, you know, you need to make a lot of them. So that's why it's probably, as you mentioned, Ubisoft is just changing the numbers, because you can do that an infinite number of times. And that's what a lot of like NFT sellers are doing. Like, you're not buying a unique work of art in the sense that somebody, you know, drew every line for you, but it's just, you know, automatically generated. Basically. So that's why, like, they don't, like, even AAA studios, I don't think they have like the means to make thousands of different types of weapons for everybody who wants to buy their weapon. It's just going to be, you know, it's slightly different colored, or this gun has a slightly longer nozzle or something like that. So
It's NFTs are just some extra trinket or gimmick you put in between the process you already have. You don't need NFTs for this sort of thing. Like 10 years ago, Diablo 3 had that same kind of auction house already. And blockchain was already existent at that time, but not NFTs as they were. So it's just a buzzword. We keep saying that because it's true. It's a buzzword and very unnecessary technology, because you could already do all these sorts of things with the items or the digital items you want to sell. And they are just adding new layer of controversy on top of all this, in addition to the electricity that it eats up, generating those NFTs and keeping them, keep checking those, keep validating those NFTs.
Yeah. So one major problem with blockchain that we forgot to mention was that, you know, as we said, all the computers are checking for each and every transaction that, you know, is this transaction good? Okay, it's good. And so, of course, at the beginning it's fine, because let's say there's nothing in the database, then one transaction happens, so now you have 100 computers checking one transaction. That's still fine. But then another transaction happens, and then another and another, and then you have millions of transactions. You have hundreds of computers checking for that whole million transaction, you know, chain. And that's why, you know, blockchain gets slower and slower over time. So that's a big problem. And not only does it get slower, but it takes up a lot of electricity.
Energy, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's this environmental aspect to it as well. It's
Yeah.
very unnecessary in all things
Yeah.
considered. There's no benefit to having an NFT other than that feeling in your heart that you own it.
Yeah. Because, like, I mean, on one hand, like, if it was like a drawback, I'd be fine with it. Like, let's say the blockchain indeed made things more secure in some sense. But it just took a lot of electricity. I'd be fine with that, but the NFTs specifically are something that we really don't need. It's just, as we mentioned, it's just an empty piece of paper that has no value in the real world. At least not at this point, of course. I'm pretty sure that everybody who's bought NFTs wants there to be like value someday in the future. But I really don't see that happening. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, because it's something so unnecessary. That's why I don't really like. Somebody once mentioned that every time you do a Google search, it uses up like one whole day's worth of energy for what it takes to like have a lamp on. So it takes just one single Google search takes about that much energy. But I'm fine with that because Google searches are pretty important. You know, we use that, we need those to find information. So it's more about the fact that NFTs are just so unusable, especially at this point.
If there's any people out there who really don't understand these NFTs, because that's one criticism also that the game companies have had. Anyone who's spoken about the benefits of NFTs, the wording sounds very much like they themselves don't understand. They don't have the knowledge. They are the CEOs of the company. They've never been even seen the technology or even read anything about them. They've just seen it on the internet rise up in the Google search numbers.
Or like in the best case scenario, somebody maybe told them like the theoretical implications of NFTs, which I mean, sure, on paper it sounds amazing that, you know, I can get a sword buy a sword in World of Warcraft, and then I can take that sword into EverQuest, and then take that sword into some other game. But yeah, those are just theoretical implications, and the practical means of doing that, no. That's not going to happen.
If you've been a game developer, even for 2 minutes at the office, typing out a game code for your game, you'd understand that games aren't interchangeable, or they don't communicate to each other, or can be. Well, nowadays you can open up Unity at Unity Asset if you make a Zelda game with Unity, and then you make a Dark Souls with Unity. You can theoretically take that sword from Zelda game to there because you use the same game engine. But the games themselves are so different from each other that, and especially between game studios who make different kinds of games. Someone makes a football game, and someone makes a shoot 'em up game, and someone makes a first person shooter. They are so different from each other that this idea of you getting the same item to any of your games, it just brings up so many questions that you'd have to, as a game developer, you'd have to take into account. You'd have to speak with the other people or the other developers about allowing this or making this possible, that this single sword can be used any of these games. You have to agree to it.
Yeah.
And we know how very well these game companies speak with each other. Not well, maybe under one company's umbrella, but that's still very far-fetched. You really have to make years and years of changing the game or the working culture to start going towards that same goal. You'd have to really change the logistics of making the games. You have to really start seeing what others are doing and start speaking with everyone to make that happen. It's not like in real life you can take this cup and fly to Iran and give that cup to someone. That's realistic because we live in real life, but game worlds are handcrafted worlds with their own mechanics, each of the games. And if you try to do that, there's guaranteed there's gonna be some bug that twists the item around or something happens, or anything else. But it's not as straightforward as you would think, and that really speaks to that the people who think this is possible, they really don't understand game development at all.
Yeah, and like it's very easy to try to point out that, okay, I don't see what's the problem. I mean, it's just one sword. Why can't I have it in every game? I mean, sure, if it was like just one sword owned by one player, I could see like a bunch of game developers being willing to add that in. But we're not talking about one player owning one sword. We're talking about, possibly millions of people.
Yeah, and giving that potential, or even giving that potential or possibility for you as a gamer to bring that sword to. Yeah, I see so many caveats in this strategy that everything will just crumble.
And even in the case that we somehow managed to make like for every player who could, have their millions of swords in all of these games, the next problem is, of course, like, how do you? There would have to be some sort of decentralized place to, prove that, that thing is yours, and everything would have to be connected to that database, to the NFT databases, and
but once again,
just a mess.
You don't need an NFT for that.
Yeah.
You really can. You can really use. You can make this universe of games that you buy some Gucci glasses or some other. That's another thing I really hate about this prospect, because they're not only talking about swords, but they're talking about real life items. You can buy some Giorgio Armani underpants for yourself, or some these brands or fashion wear in your game, and theoretically bring them to another game. Games are for relaxation and getting rid of that real life for a little while.
Yeah.
And now they are planning that, well, Fortnite. I haven't spoken about that game for a long time, so I totally forgot its name. But it already has some kind of cosmetics, I think, or at least very prominent plans of adding some Adidas wear there, or Gucci's glasses, or all these fashion brands into a game.
Yeah.
So if it's something that doesn't affect your gameplay, just these glasses, let's say it's the sunglasses, and you buy them in Fortnite, and then you go to your Splinter Cell and you can have those same glasses in there. First of all, you really have to, both of these game makers have to put them asset in there in the game. It's possible. Other thing is, they have to fit it in the character's face also. It's not like this. You have to code it to follow your character's face and fit there. There's all sorts of optimization and coding involved in having that asset work well in that game.
Not just on your character, but with all the other clothing in the game as well.
Yeah, and then we come to the, I don't know, second, third, fourth problem, and it's the branding. Does the brand give you the permission to use it in this specific game? The permission...
or the license.
License, yes. The license, it will get complicated if some Disney doesn't really want you to have this Boba Fett helmet in some specific game, but this other item is available there.
Yeah.
In Fortnite you can have two Disney's items, but one of them can't be used in this other game, but one other can be. It will become very complicated because companies are companies and they really want to have this power over their IPs, not only game companies but also these brands, real life brands, Coca-Cola's, Disney's, everyone have their interests in mind, and some of them have their ethics in them.
Yeah.
So someone wouldn't really want to have some item appear in some specific game, and then some controversy happens, then they will pull out it from the other game. It's gonna be a convoluted mess.
Yeah.
Speaking so much because it really brings out the thinking part of me, how this is impossible to think about games sharing some same asset between those games.
And even in the case that, like, if all this was possible, it's the same thing as in real life. Like, let's say you buy a sword, and okay, so now you own the sword, but just because you own the sword doesn't mean that you can go to the street and start, waving it around. There are going to be people who are concerned, and so that's the same thing with gaming companies. So even if you buy like a helmet as an NFT, of course there's going to be some gaming companies who do not want to have that specific kind of helmet in their game, because maybe it looks stupid, maybe there's licensing problems, whatever. So again, there's that problem in that just because you own it doesn't mean that somebody's going to allow you to weld it in specific places.
Or at the very least, even if they accept it into the game, but they'd have to make the helmet fit in with the artistic design of that specific game. So they'd have to hand make it, handcraft it in the 3D software.
Yeah, and in that case, is it even the same helmet anymore? Because now it looks different. So what was the original NFT even for? Was it just for a name of an item that sort of looks like that or whatever? There's just so many problems with this.
These are some thoughts that I really haven't put into words in my head yet, and this has been a very brain-opening discussion, because it just becomes more and more convoluted when you start speaking about it or discussing about it. One other NFT, in regards to Ubisoft, they had some NFT reward that required you to play some unimaginable amount of hours in that. Let's say it was Division, some 3,000 hours. Play the game 3,000 hours and you get this NFT as a gift. They try to push this retention for your game.
Because like on one hand, I don't like see a problem with, like, if you really like the game, then I guess it's fine, like rewarding people who have been there and stuck around for a long time. But at the same time, I do think there's like this moral implication with the fact that I like to say that, it's important that a game ends at some point. And it's like games like World of Warcraft have been going on for, I think, way past their like expiration date. They should really stop at this point. And in the same sense, I think like for completionist's sake, I don't think like any game should require like that many hours into it too.
Inhumane amounts of cash or hours from you. But this is beside the NFT stuff. Aside from that one NFT can be acquired by playing a game so much that you wouldn't have any life at all. But that's a bad part of the gaming industry at the moment, and that's not. NFTs are just part of this rotten part of gaming industry where they really want to get as much money from you as possible with single game.
Yeah.
That's a whole other discussion we could have. Why Activision pushed one Call of Duty per year schedules and others like that. I think I really said anything I wanted to say about how useless the NFTs are.
Yeah.
They aren't essential to have a good game. And no one has to this day really given because I'm open to the idea that NFT would be beneficial or very good for something, but no one has yet explained or given any scenario where it would work.
Yeah, where it would actually work.
Yeah, work and give some
additional benefit.
Yeah. I've seen none. No one has been able to explain or give any kind of scenario where NFT could work or open up some new avenues to gameplay or open something new as a player.
Yeah, and specifically anything realistic that could be actually implemented. And like, it's just really sad that, I don't know, 20 years ago when you bought a game, if you wanted to color your weapon blue, then you just did that. It was part of the basic game. And then came the microtransactions, and now you'd have to pay for that. And now we have NFTs where you also have to pay for that, and now it's just a different kind of buzzword scheme. So it's all about just getting the money from the players, and that's just really sad. And the same thing with amount of hours you put into the game, in that it's not really helping. Like, there's already immense problems with like mobile games being really like addicting, and the gameplay loop is all about you just doing repetitive tasks and never getting to any sort of like satisfying conclusion with the game. And all of this is just adding to that, the bad side of modern gaming. Modern gaming. That is not a good word.
All right. I think we've exhausted the NFT topic, right?
Yeah.
For now, at least.
I don't know. So basically, I guess that was enough rambling about NFTs. So if you have one take about this, if you ever considered buying NFTs, don't. I hope we could explain it well enough why that is. But just if you didn't understand enough, just keep in mind that it's a shady scheme, and there's no real life
benefit
or any ways where it can be realistically used. And like, sure, there are possibilities, but right now the people who are flocking into it are just those who are struck by the fear of missing out, that maybe this is something big, and I want to be one of the people to get in on it. And it's been old enough that we've seen, I think, that that's not going to be the case. It's kind of like you trying to hop into a pyramid scheme. I mean, sure, we already know that pyramid schemes they're never a good thing. So you just hopped into something that made you lost money and got nothing out of it. And somebody, due to using the FOMO, they got a lot of out of it, and basically stole from you. Yeah, if we got anything wrong, or if you have anything more about NFTs, if you know more about the blockchain technology, feel free to write down in the comments. If you know any videos that explain it much better than we did, then feel free to link them there and so on. And other than that, we've been Gerolf and Vandil from the Owl Basket team. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye bye.